Welcome to Curing Racism. Simpson, the happiness engineer, along with my co-host, Mr. Paul Hoyt, our co-author of the movement, architecture of our neurological pathways. We're not here to debate identity or history or morality. We are here to work on the invisible mechanisms that destabilize organizations, subconscious bias reflexes. Welcome to Curing Racism, but we're also stabilizing systems. Paul, welcome, buddy.
Hey, hey, it's always good to be with you, Paz, and to talk about one of my very favorite subjects, tribal instincts and curing racism and what we can do to make this world a better place by helping people understand some of the biases that we all have subconsciously so that we can better manage them and deal with them effectively.
And I think what we've more importantly recently is actually giving it a real term, right? We had tribal instinct is something that we have uh, detailed in our book, but
Right.
tribal instinct doesn't always reflect, right, the neurological path, the ways that we can actually make a difference. So I would love for you to talk about what is conscious bias reflex and how
I,
did we get there?
I'm going to add a word to that, and it's subconscious in-group bias reflex. So it's the in-group bias that is subconscious to all of us, and you can also talk about that. Another term for that is tribal instinct. What it basically means is that we are our subconscious minds are driven to make us as safe as possible. And that means bonding with people who have nurtured us in our younger days. People, essentially members of our family, members of our close extended family, our personal tribe. Those people are the ones that we're most comfortable around, and those are the ones that we feel most closely bonded with. And our subconscious mind says, those are the safe people. Those are that's the safe group to belong to. And people who don't look like us, talk like us, dress like us, who don't belong in that group to which we have become accustomed, can be perceived as our subconscious mind as a threat. Those people are the unsafe people because they're not like the safe people who have nurtured me and helped me grow in my younger years. So we have this natural in-group bias, and we have a tendency to favor those people who are in our groups, and we have a tendency to be nervous about, to be disparaging against, prejudicial against those people who are not part of our favored groups. And that's what in-group bias is. And it is all subconscious, and most people don't even know that they have it.
And I love that we are able to, first of all, identify it. Um, our big brother, probably you're just regular brother, David Corbin, wrote a book called Illuminate.
Yeah.
Find it, follow it, fix it. With us being able to find it, which is the initial issue, which is that subconscious in group bias reflex, we can then follow it, right? So that we can provide solutions to others to fix it without a real
Yeah,
term. No, go ahead, Paul.
I was saying we started with the whole concept of tribal instinct. Why does this thing called racism exist in the first place? And once our understanding of that, became pretty secure and pretty mature, then we started seeing other forms of in-group bias as well. Placism is a word that you have used many times. Racism is a form of placism. It's a form of in-group bias. But I was thinking today about In even in our modern culture, how we have such in-group bias, and while we look upon those who are not quite the way we think that they should be disparagingly, and sometimes that's members of the LGBTQ community, sometimes it's people who are very large people, sometimes it's the homeless people, sometimes it's it's something. And for us white men, it can even be those women out there that we look disparaging on because they're not part of the in crowd. In the United States, when the Constitution was formed, um, women didn't get a right to vote, but it was also only white male landowners who were a part of the in group. They were part of the ones who were privileged to be voters, and gradually we have begun to overcome that. In our society, we allow women to vote, we allow people of all kinds of races to vote, etc. We have broken through that bias, but there's still a lot of in-group biases that we need to break through, with racism being one of the prime ones.
And I love that you pointed out that racism is one of the subconscious biases. It's not the only subconscious bias. It is a prevalent subconscious bias that is currently harming society, right? So, but it's not the only one. It's one that once we can recognize these subconscious in group bias reflexes, I think not only can we cure one, right, we can cure many, right? Because we're no longer just dealing with the symptoms, but we are actually dealing with the root causes. Many
Amen.
of the other programs and situations that have come prior to the discussion that we're bringing to the table are all symptom oriented instead of going to the root cause that allows us to feel like, right? Brothers and sisters in business, brothers and sisters in harmony, but more important, brothers and sisters in humanity.
I love that. I love that brothers and sisters in humanity part. And I would say to everybody out there that's listening to the podcast, um, I want to honor your courage for even having this conversation. You know, one of the challenges of inner work is that it's scary. It's frightening to believe that we have so many subconscious beliefs and our subconscious programming is so strong, and to be able to go in and do that introspection, to do that work of discovering what our real subconscious programming is, and discovering what instincts we have, discovering those truths that we learned when we were 2, 3, and 4 and 5 years old that are still there in prevalence, and being able to question them and being able to rewrite that subconscious programming. For a lot of people, that takes a lot of courage. Racism is just one of the most obvious forms of in-group bias, and it's obvious because you can spot a member of another race, from 100 yards away. Yeah. So we can see it coming, for it's very, very superficial. But as we like to say, once we can learn to see through, to manage the superficial boundaries that divide us, we'll be able to discover the common values that unite us.
Yes, I love that. And I think more prevalent now, Les Brown once said that true genius is to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn again, right? We are in a society where technology is moving so fast that we have to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn again even faster than we did in the past. We have to
Yeah,
be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn again even more importantly than in the past, because some of the mistakes that they said wouldn't harm us will now, right? Because one of the things that they don't tell you in business, right, is that ignorance is not bliss, and ignorance can harm. So, being able to learn, unlearn, and relearn again, even those uh, programs that are out there that are teaching DEI and all these other things that are no longer, prevalent in this administration. They need to learn, unlearn, and relearn again so that they can become still viable parts of our society. So I think what curing racism does, and maybe you may disagree, right? This may want to be one of the times we disagree, but what I think curing racism does is it sets um, a margin for people to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn again while still feeling good about it, right?
I,
Because go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, I think you got it. I mean, it gives us an opportunity to learn one of life's most valuable lessons, and that is the lesson of subconscious bias, and especially subconscious in-group bias, where we favor people who look like us, talk like us, dress like us, sound like us, feel like us, think like us. We really feel more comfortable. We feel safer around those people that we feel like are part of our networks. They're part of our support system. And it takes, as we mentioned earlier, that does take a lot of courage. Most people, I won't say most people, but there are certainly some people around there that never get around to doing their inner work for whatever reason. Their egos, their arrogance, their lack of courage has not allowed them to even consider their subconscious programming and how their beliefs are controlling their results and their attitudes, etc. So, again, my hat's off to everybody that will be open to this conversation. They'll be open to beginning to do their own inner work in about describing their own prejudices and their own ways that they are discriminating against people who are not part of their favored in group.
And I love it. So we're coming close to our end, you know, and I want to remind everyone that every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Pacific time, Paul and I will be coming together to discuss how subconscious bias reflexes are affecting society, affecting businesses, affecting life. So, what this show is an opportunity not just to reflect on what is happening yesterday, but to be able to examine what is going on today and how you can prepare for tomorrow. So,
Mm.
I I really, thank Paul for joining me in this bold conversation every week because this is something that's not being done anywhere else, where we're actually uncovering these subconscious in group bias reflexes, pointing them out, being able to examine them, and giving you a way to possibly come up with a solution. So
Well,
I
let's
thank Paul
let's
for
let's
uh,
talk about that solution for just a second, because we don't want to just leave you hanging with the problem.
I
This
love it.
the solution is the start of the explanation of the solution is in the subheading of the subtitle of the book itself. One conversation, one connection, one heart at a time. When you can talk to your brother from another mother or your sister from another mister, and you can ask them questions about their dreams, about what they like to do for fun, about their family, about what they value the most, what you will discover is that most of us value the same things. We value health and happiness. We value our families. We love our children. We all want the same things for ourselves and our families. And all of these superficial differences about how we look, how we dress, what churches that we go to, what political parties we belong to, those are all superficial compared to the most important things in our life, which is those common values that we share. So all it takes to begin to take that next step in overcoming your in-group bias, overcoming any racist tendencies that you may have, is to have that conversation. Have that deep conversation about what you value the most, who you love the most, and you will find that we are all the same.
I love it. And that's why we are curing racism. We'll see you next week.
Bye.